All right, we are live. Everybody's going to get switched over from the protest that's currently happening in New York outside of the APAC headquarters that John Farina has been doing an excellent live stream on this afternoon. We've been watching here. Wow, why are these cops arresting somebody over a sound system? That's just going to escalate things. They want to start a riot. I don't know.
Disorderly conduct.
Disorderly conduct, something like that. All right. So today on Right Wing Insanity Report, we're going to take a look at what's going down on the border. Obviously, SCOTUS has made a ruling that Governor Abbott does not like. So now he's going to go to war with SCOTUS. I thought they loved SCOTUS 2 weeks ago. Now maybe not. I think this is just one more example of these guys wanting every single institution in our government to do their bidding as opposed to applying law evenly and universally. Clearly, SCOTUS is veered to the right, so it's not because of any left-wing reactionary tendencies that they might have, but Abbott thinks differently. So we're going to talk about that and a few other things. But before we do, I want to share some breaking news that's happening in Europe today. We've often talked on the show about how fascism is increasing throughout the world, not just the United States. Also, let me stop and introduce my guest. I assume everybody knows Leila, but maybe not everybody knows Leila. Leila is the co-host of Punch Up Pod with Pat Cody. You can watch that on Wednesday nights. It's a fun little show where they review all the topics of the day and have a drinking game that goes along with it. I always have Leila on the show to discuss certain issues that sort of transcend both parties because right-wing insanity isn't just for the Republicans. So Leila, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be back. Thank you.
Right on. Friend of the show. That's why I was like, everybody knows Leila, right? All right. So let's look at this Guardian piece. So, fascism has been increasing across the globe, not just in the United States. Obviously Bolsonaro down in Brazil. In Britain, we had the guy that had the similar weird hairdo, Boris. We've seen AfD rise in Germany, which is the far right party there. And in Austria, there's a party that's kind of been on the wane and back again, on the wane and back again. They were originally started by Nazis back in 1950, and they've been seeing an increase in the last couple of years in Austria. So they took a big chunk of the last election, more so than people imagined they would. And so now they're seeing some protests against their far right agenda. So I want to pull up this Guardian article and just talk about this a little bit before we move on to Governor Abbott. Alrighty. Except that I just shut out my entire... Hold on one second. I just accidentally clicked it shut.
Oh.
Because of course I did. All right, hang on, everybody. All right. Thousands across Austria take part in protests against the far right. Defend Democracy events were planned in Innsbruck, Salzburg, and in front of the Parliament building in Vienna. So there's a shot from the day. Thousands of Austrians have taken to the streets of the country's three largest cities in a spillover of protests over the rise of the far right in neighboring Germany. Under the slogan, Defend Democracy, gatherings organized by a broad alliance of civil society organizations, NGOs, political groups, church communities, and trade unions took place in Innsbruck, Salzburg, and in front of the Parliament building in Vienna. The demonstrations followed days of protests in villages, towns, and cities across Germany, where more than 1 million people from a broad cross-section of society have turned out over the past 2 weeks, despite the cold weather and rail strike. They have been demonstrating against the rise of the far right, in particular the populist Alternative for Deutschland, or AFG, Alternative for Germany, which is a very far right party. And Austrian Martin Sellner. So people that don't know who Martin Sellner is, he has been around quite a few years. He's a far right fascist, definitely closer to neo-Nazism, I would say. But he has been preaching white nationalism for a very long time. To a smaller group, but he's been growing in popularity. On Thursday, about 500 protesters gathered in Vienna's city center at the headquarters of one of Austria's oldest post-war far-right organizations, Landsmannskraft, which hosted an event with Maximilian Krah, the AfD's leading candidate for the European elections, and the far-right German publicist Goetz Gotz, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Kubitschek, who is a close confidant of Sellner's. German authorities are considering whether they can issue a ban to prevent Sellner from entering the country. I want to point out that in Germany, there are laws against anti-Semitic and hate speech. So unlike the United States, they do not have a First Amendment right to say certain things. So they can prevent folks from doing these sorts of things. The focus of the protests on Friday was on the rise in right-wing extremism, anti-Semitism, and racism. Organizers hoped to form a human chain around the Parliament building. Representatives of the Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, and Muslim communities, as well as figures from the cultural world, were set to attend. All right. So, I wanted to bring this up because, again, it's breaking news and we don't often talk about what's going on in Europe, but this is a global problem, Leila. We've seen fascist regimes and far-right organizations become more popular everywhere. I mean, France, Le Pen, was looking pretty close to taking the prime minister spot. You have in Italy a new prime minister that is 100% far-right. So what are your thoughts on all that?
So this is when I always pile on to the Democrats, whose sole job is to fight against this. And my feeling is the neoliberalism that really started under Clinton, who was funded by the Koch brothers, far right, but that has now permeated every country with the help of like the McKinsey consultants. So when you have countries where there is such deep economic frustration, we know this. We saw this in the 30s. We saw this in the beginning of the 20th century. So it's terrifying. And even like the conflation, like what you just said about laws against anti-Semitism in Germany, they've just been arresting anti-Zionist Holocaust survivors, right? So like,
they can weaponize those laws. That's definitely true. I mean, this is one reason I think that we should hold the First Amendment to our souls. It's a very important amendment.
100%. Yeah.
Maybe sometimes allowing people that disagree with you to say things gives you that same right. And, if you go too far in any direction, it ends up being weaponized or politicized. So that is absolutely happening in this case.
What's the request in these marches? Excuse me. I'm really, it's mirroring, as you said, so much of what's happening here, right? Like, what does it mean to be protesting for democracy? What exactly are they asking for? That our leaders listen to what most of the people they're supposed to represent do? Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing that I often say too, and I'm going to say it again. The right has a lot of the same beefs that the left does. And many of these beefs are legitimate. If you look at what they're saying, income inequality, like you mentioned, has increased. It's worse now than it was in the 20s. That is a global issue as well. The plutonymy, or the ruling class, that's not just an American thing. That is also global, multinational corporations. So there are very real reasons for people to be angry. There are very real reasons for folks to be out there, having protests and wanting more rights given back to them. So I understand that. The right understands it. The left understands it. It's the solutions that are different. And the unfortunate reality is, if the left in the world, whether it's the Democratic Party, whether it's, other parties and parliamentary systems in Europe, if they don't provide a left exit to the income inequality, I think we are going to continue to see a rise in fascism, because it's very easy for these quote unquote right-wing populists politicians to make an appeal to xenophobic answers or xenophobic solutions as to why they are suffering, right? The reason you're suffering is because of immigration. The reason you're suffering is not because of the white wealthy elites that have sort of captured the government,
stolen all your wages,
right?
Right. Yeah.
It's the immigrants and the Jews that control them, right? Like both of those things are easily pointed out. You could give a million examples as to why they're not true, right? I mean, the fact that these people keep saying that Jews control everything is patently absurd. Most of the time it's white. I mean, Elon Musk, what is he, Jewish now? I mean, Bill Gates, like we could go down the list. There's plenty of people, that are in media, that are in corporations that are absolutely
the WEF guy, right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, come on. Like, it's just a ridiculous trope that doesn't really hold any water. But, for whatever reason, some people latch onto that sort of thing when they are suffering financially. So if the left doesn't provide any sort of left exit, and they don't seem looking to do that at this point, it's going to continue to be problematic, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's really terrifying because, even, sorry, but to go back to the article you just shared, they're talking about, oh, they're coming out to protest in spite of the rail strike, which,
Right.
reminds me, we were denied a rail strike by our left president,
By
right?
Biden.
So, like,
Yeah, that's right.
though, every time that things like that happen, it's the people who are supposed to be the opposition party reaching across the aisle to compromise with the fascists.
Right. Which is really problematic, right? No, I get that. All right. So on that note, let's turn to the border and let's take a look at what's going on there. So now the start of all of this was obviously the razor wire and some of the other things that were put up along the Texas border. Right. We've seen immigrants killed because of this. It's led to actual deaths. And, Greg Abbott is trying to stand his ground down there. SCOTUS has ruled on the side of the Biden administration, saying that the Border Patrol can take some of that down in certain areas. But I feel like this is just more hypocrisy, right? Again, like I said at the start of the show, this is one more example of them saying, we don't want laws to be applied universally. We just want the law to do what we want it to do, right? It's not about having something universally applied. And when the left generally criticizes SCOTUS or they criticize, the New York PD, like NYPD, like we were just looking at, or police reform, that is what they're complaining about. They want laws to be applied universally. They don't want biased cops. They don't want, and the bias isn't entirely always racial, right? Sometimes it's just a plain old right-wing bias.
Right.
John Farina was making the point during the live stream, and I think he's right on this, that, during January 6th, during the Capitol insurrection, they were very kid glove with a lot of those protesters.
Opened the doors for them.
Open the doors for them. I mean, the fact that they were able to get as far as they did is kind of a testimony to the way the right wing is treated differently from the left and in those situations. I think if that had BLM, we would have seen live ammunition. Antifa,
Medicare
forget it.
For all protesters who were taken out of their wheelchairs and arrested.
Right. So, I mean, we've seen that. So I think sometimes there's just this sort of innate bias to that. I think a lot of police officers were Trump supporters, still are probably. So they, are like, well, you're my people. I'm going to let you get away with a little something. I feel like that's sort of part and parcel to the conversation. 100%. Yeah. So let's take a look at this Rolling Stone article. They had a great article on this border clash. High profile Republicans push Texas to defy Supreme Court border ruling. This is the Supreme Court where they had their people installed that they were applauding because they overturned Roe v. Wade. Right. But now they're like evil.
Yep.
All right. House Speaker Mike Johnson has thrown his support behind Greg Abbott as the Texas governor continues to defy the Biden administration following a Supreme Court ruling granting the federal government authority to remove swaths of razor wire installed at the southern border by the state. On Monday, the conservative-controlled court determined in a 5-4 ruling that the Biden administration can remove concertina wire Texas installed at various points of their border with Mexico. The coils of wire have been linked to slews of injuries of undocumented migrants. In response to the ruling, Abbott, who for months now has been escalating his feud with the Biden administration over border security, issued a statement on Wednesday declaring that the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the state. So, here we go veering into this like states' rights argument, right? The one that they didn't like about Roe v. Wade. That is the same premise that undergirded Roe v. Wade, but now it's bad, right? I have already declared an invasion, are you kidding me? Under Article 1, blah, 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 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary, Abbott wrote. What gives here?
I mean, and this is in spite of Biden's inhumane border bill proposal that he floated in front of these horrible fascists. And now they're going to reject it because they don't want Biden to have a win, which would not be a win for migrants.
Right.
So this is the ratchet effect. This is how it goes, right? I mean, it truly is. Like Biden trips over himself to go further right even than he already is, to provide some bills so that he can continue to fund those same like Azov battalion people who helped train the Charlottesville Jews will not replace us, sells out immigrants, and they still won't take it. So now here we are.
Here we are. So let's take a look at some of the inside baseball on that. RFK Jr., of course, had to have his opinion inserted into this. So I want to put this up for a minute. So now, why does this matter? Let me backtrack a second. RFK has been basically saying he's good on immigration, that he's been sort of an activist for immigration rights in the past. That may or may not be true. I'll table that for another day. But this is what he's saying here. Texas is right. Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands. As president, I will end this humanitarian crisis once and for all. I will secure the border and destroy the business model of the drug cartels. Sure, okay. A country without borders is not a country at all. Kennedy 24. What do you think is happening here? Is he trying to sort of placate potential voters on the right? I think that's a losing game for him. The Trump people are going to vote for Trump. They're not going to vote for him no matter what he says. I don't think that he's going to secure any part of the independent or left vote with this kind of a statement. And the fact that he's sort of trying to say that I will end this humanitarian crisis, he's not actually talking about the humanitarian crisis, that there is one at the border. Right? That's not what he's talking about. No. He's saying that there's no border security is indeed the actual humanitarian crisis.
He said he wanted to model our border down there on Israel's border with Gaza. I mean, that
all right, fair.
That's his lane. Right?
I've forgotten about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, he's not taking any Democratic votes. And there's a part of me that wonders in my sort of when I do a deep dive tinfoil hat, is he trying to help Democrats? Because he might peel off a couple of Republican voters in the general, and it would actually help Biden.
I don't think so.
He's a lifelong Democrat.
I think he's also a lifelong conspiracy theory guy. So, if you look at his history, I think this is kind of on par. I think he bounces around. Right. I don't think the reputation he has in some areas is well deserved. That's just my opinion. Anyway, let's look at what Mitt Romney had to say. So now we have Mitt Romney's, he's more of an old school GOP pro-business kind of Republican, right? So this is a different fraction of the party. They kind of they're a little bit reactionary to the populist sort of quote unquote, because it's right-wing populism. They have a reaction to that sort of rhetoric because they need the cheap labor. They aren't entirely against immigration. They know that they need those bodies to do these jobs for cheap, that a lot of, citizens in this country aren't going to take these jobs. For example, farm workers, right? Migrant farm workers. Right. So there's a part of the Republican Party that still, understands and thinks that way, right? So let's hear what Mitt Romney had to say. I have a little clip here.
Former President Trump has indicated to senators that he does not want us to solve the problem at the border. He wants to lay the blame for the border at Biden. And the idea that someone running for president would say, please hurt the country so I can blame my opponent and help my politics is a shocking development.
Do you think this is what he wants, the issue, Donald Trump? This is why he's doing it?
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump. And the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
So what does that say that what he is saying carries weight here? What does it say that Republicans are listening to?
Well, shocking that politics plays a role in this building. Absolutely shocking. I can't imagine that's the case.
Ukraine is on the line.
But the reality is that we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border. And someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, "Hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later."
Okay, so I got to say, Mitt's right here. This
is what's happened nobody's solved the border problem for decades.
Right.
Neither party. They both burn on it.
No, I agree with you.
The whole deal.
But it's also really terrible, exceptionally terrible for Trump to be so brazenly no, let's not sign this terrible deal. Because you mentioned earlier there was a deal on the table that is bipartisan. So of course Mitt Romney and the business sector would like to see that deal happen because they're going to get some benefits from that. Right. And so now you have Trump interjecting, saying, no, that's a win for the guy that's in office. That could hurt my chances at winning the election. I want that to be my win, not his. This is very childish, right? I mean, Mitt's point that is very detrimental and childish is pretty on par.
I mean, he once again is doing,
given the fact that this deal isn't a handout to the left, it's not. You would think that they would be interested in signing it.
I think last week Lindsey Graham said they'll never get as far a bill as the one that Biden's proposed under a Republican. It is so So, but like, once again, it's just Trump is like, he is the whole Republican Party. He just says it out loud.
It's insane, right? Though. It's insane that they won't take this deal. It's a good deal for the Republicans. It's a bad deal for the left or for immigration reform.
3 governors, I think, just signed a letter backing Abbott. I mean,
yes.
That's pretty terrifying.
Girl, that is the definition of right-wing insanity. That's where we're at in the country.
Yeah, I tried to help. I tried not just to blame Democrats. I'm coming back because I'm pissed. But yeah.
But it's not just for the right. I mean, this is just where the country's at. This is why we started this show, right? This show would have made no sense 6 years ago, but it makes perfect sense now. I want to play Gavin Newsom's response to this. Gavin Newsom, in my opinion, has been sort of running a kind of shadow president run here, I think. If anything happens to Biden, he's going to be up to bat on that. He has been meeting with foreign dignitaries and whatnot, which is not something normally a governor does. So that's why I say that. But let's go ahead and play this clip in his response.
They won't touch it. They don't want to solve this problem. They want to use it for political purposes. And again, I say this as a border state governor. No one has to introduce me to this issue. We're the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in the state of California. We live this. And I think it is a disgrace what the Republican Party is doing, what Donald Trump is doing. And this is hidden in plain sight. He sent out a tweet or some truth, whatever, saying, kill it. And these guys are so weak. It's so pathetically weak, this Republican Party. And the new speaker said, oh, yes, sir, what else would you like us to do? We don't care about America. We don't care about our freedoms and liberties. We care about politics exclusively at the expense of the American people, because all we care about is winning for winning's sake. That is shameful.
All right, back with me from South Carolina, Alex Wagner.
It is shameful, but the Democrats do it too. It's
just like that Spider-Man, like where everyone's pointing at each other, like Roe v. Wade. Is he talking about Roe v. Wade? Codifying Roe? Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so obviously Gavin's making a point that California is a border state. That's nonsense, yada, yada, yada. I do think he's correct on that. Obviously, Abbott has very extreme viewpoints, xenophobic viewpoints. And here's the thing. What's at the heart of the immigration problem in this country has been building for decades. This is not something that happened overnight. We've been coming to this place for a long time.
Foreign policy,
It's bad foreign policy where we've, helped to overturn, stable democracies, democratic, right? In other countries. It's, protecting American business interests abroad at the expense of what would make more sense as far as having neighbors we should get along with. The drug cartels are absolutely a part of that. But the drug war has not helped that. We've spent billions of dollars trying to fight the drug cartels without ever looking at the idea that maybe drug addiction is a public health issue.
Well, and also funneling money into the drug cartels. Sorry, but
we've done that too. Iran-Contra,
right? Yeah, and in the South, in Colombia. Yes, all of that.
All of that. So all of these things that have led to the place we're at now are causing a perfect storm, because at the same time we have been squeezing out our amnesty issues. Like it's very hard to get into the country now. It was much easier to apply for citizenship legally and come in, 20 years ago. With Title 42 and the MPP that was put in place by Trump, that was also held on to for the first part of Biden's administration. Let's be honest about that. Yeah. He didn't initially overturn Title 42. He expanded it. Then you have some judges step in and say, it's staying for a hot minute. We'll table that for a minute. But the point being is that was where things got markedly worse, because now you're saying all of these folks coming in looking for asylum, where in the past they could be here waiting for their court cases, get legal help, and understand all that. We started just pushing them back into the Mexican side of the border.
Yeah, where you have to go through 2 countries and
Right.
wait to be rejected. Yeah, that was.
And then
I mean,
and be in a very dangerous situation there.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize there's even Cuban refugees at the Mexican border trying to get into the United States. Cuba, which is how many miles from Florida?
yeah.
People are taking this dangerous trip. That is how reactionary, xenophobic things have gotten. Part of that conversation also has to do with the types of people that Trump put into place at the Department of Homeland Security. He installed, as far as my count, 9 different individuals that worked for one of the John Tanton organizations, including Julie Kirshner, who is heading it up, and John Tanton was a zero immigration guy. Every single one of his nonprofits is geared towards overturning the 14th Amendment, not only stopping illegal immigration, stopping all immigration, and eventually creating some sort of white nationalist state, right? So that is where that viewpoint's coming from. And when you take people with that viewpoint and you put them into a federal agency that is in charge of a lot of that, it's very problematic. It's going to bleed down into the way everything's handled. So, yeah, here we are. So Biden, let's talk about him for a second. He didn't overturn Title 42 initially. They did expand it to include asylum seekers from other countries.
Right. Well, they used COVID. Like, he had a real dilemma there, right? Like, how do you end the COVID emergency, which, by the way, killed 2,300 people just this past week, and keep again Title 42? Like, how do you do both? And he went with America's Back Open. I ended COVID. But yes, this issue on the border will not be fixed, obviously, by barbed wire, which is horrifying.
No, it won't. It's just going to kill more people needlessly. It's
deeper systemic issue that both parties contribute to with, remember like trying to overthrow a Venezuelan president and Nancy Pelosi getting up and clapping for that. This is a bipartisan project to destroy any sort of left-leaning government and install our own right-wing, lackey. Yeah,
I agree. Again, all in the interest of what they perceive to be American business interests. Right. I would say that it's more complicated than that. Sometimes, there's unintended consequences that they don't like, but they'll shelve them. Right? This is what they do. All right. I wanted to turn now, unless you have anything else on that. I want to turn to Ted Cruz. Because, of course, Ted Cruz had something to say.
Yes. Brilliant. Harvard trained.
Yeah, right. So, and also Ted Cruz is an immigrant, is he not? Believe me.
Certainly his parents were, but I don't know
Ted Cruz says there's no need for more border legislation and Biden should simply mimic Trump's immigration strategy. Because, of course, he should.
He's trying. He just bypassed 26 environmental laws to continue building Trump's wall. What's their problem? That's what happens. So now we're going even further. Right?
So Republican Senator Ted Cruz said there's no need for Republicans to help pass a border bill, even though this border bill is pretty much a handout to what the right wanted. I just don't understand this. In a recent television appearance, Senator Ted Cruz publicly advocated against the immigration bill his Republican colleagues have been in negotiations with Democrats for months. Appearing on Fox News on Thursday night, Cruz explained that he doesn't think a border-related bill is necessary. We don't need a border bill, Cruz said. We achieved the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years under Donald Trump. What was different is you had a president that wanted to secure the border. The Texas Republican noted that he has yet to see the contents of the bipartisan immigration bill. So he hasn't even looked at the bill he's speaking out against, because why would you look at it?
Why would you
but insisted that, right? But insisted that congressional action isn't needed on the matter. Trump or any Republican president willing to enforce the law doesn't need this bill to solve the situation at the border. Cruz's televised appearance wasn't the first time he's railed against the Senate bill. At a press conference Wednesday alongside several conservative senators, he called the bill a stinking pile of crap. That bill that he hasn't read is a stinking pile of crap.
He's just wanting to get into the good graces of the next president of the United States.
Oh my God. Can I just say for a minute, the politicians in our country are all so terrible.
I mean, look at Fetterman talking about immigrants. His wife was an undocumented immigrant.
Right.
I mean, now we've got somebody who ran as a progressive, like
I know.
running as fast as he can to the far right. All that money. I mean, that's what it really is. It's money. I mean, yeah, it's ideology. And I think that's, but like in the end,
A lot of it's money. I agree.
It's the only religion in this country.
I don't entirely disagree with that. All right. So in other news, I want to talk about Trump wanting to be a dictator for a minute. Because he's now like pretty much saying the quiet part out loud. There was the viral video that happened in December where he was on Fox News where he said he wanted to be dictator for one day, only one day. And in that one day, he's going to sign every executive order under the sun that he wants. I mean, you only need one day to like completely upend everything in the country.
Yep.
I mean, okay, one day.
Honestly, I wish the left had a president like that. I mean, get in there, do the emergency actions that you could do. They had that in the American Prospect. There were so many emergency actions that Biden could have come in and done. Medicare for all, student debt, right? But Democrats won't do that. Now here comes Trump, 2.0. And yeah, he's going to.
The problem is that nobody should be doing that. And we need to get back to like good governance in the country. I don't
100%. Although the leader of the executive branch does have a right to sign.
Oh, he does. I
actions,
agree.
Right?
And
so like,
yes, there are times when they make sense. I'm not against
Yeah.
that. Actually, the guy who signed the most executive actions ever was Ronald Reagan. I don't know if people realize that. Have to throw way back for that one. And nobody called him a dictator.
Democrats. Yeah.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to play this. I want to play this clip from Scaramucci. So obviously he used to work for Trump at one time. He's sort of down with Trump. But let's hear what he has to say, and then we're going to talk about it.
My question to you, sir, is what happened to your loyalty?
Ben, are you married?
Yes.
You are? Okay. You haven't been through a divorce yet, though, right?
Not yet. There's still time.
Okay, all right. Well, hopefully it'll never happen to you. Hopefully you stay married forever. But, sometimes people get divorced. They can get divorced from a marriage, or they can get divorced from a business relationship, or from a political relationship. And so what happens in a situation like that, things change, and you start to make an observation of somebody. And yes, there are parts of Mr. Trump's mission that I actually believe in. I grew up in a blue collar family, and I believe that there's a good 20% of the United States that feels disenfranchised. 20% of the country, frankly, went from aspirational working class to economically desperational. So, but that doesn't negate what Mr. Trump is doing as it relates to the U.S. Constitution. It doesn't negate what he's doing as it relates to the insurrection, the election interference. And let me just make one last point. There are 20 cabinet members that work for Mr. Trump closely and directly alongside of myself. Now, granted, I was there for 11 days, but I did work for him for close to a year on the campaign. And we all saw the same thing, and we were all speaking out against his temperament to be the president of the United States. So things do change. Facts change, and smart people change their opinion when the facts change.
Well, Anthony, you may have, Donald Trump may have lost your support entirely, but there's a difference between not supporting Donald Trump for president and supporting and backing President Joe Biden.
Well, you only got two choices. I mean, unfortunately, the United States has decided to put up Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And so you have two choices. I'm choosing the person that's going to preserve the American institutions of the democracy and the American system. Mr. Trump has already said that he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be dictator for a day. He wants to expand the executive powers. He wants to persecute. He wants to use what has typically been an agnostic Justice Department, but he wants to use that to persecute his political adversaries.
So I think that last point is definitely true. He's made that pretty clear. And we're going to take a look at some of that in a second. But Scaramucci, what are your thoughts here on what he's saying?
I mean, he was very honest. He said, I agree with the policies. I don't like the temperament. That's why I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, who has the exact same policies pretty much. And a slightly more muted temperament. It's just those
he's less of a fascist.
I mean, okay, but then how do you talk about saving democracy? We're not going to have most people don't even know that he's having primary challengers. They're kicking them off the ballot. They're not doing debate.
Oh, I agree. All of that's really problematic.
So, like,
I agree.
when you say those things, again, like, you just do not have an opposition to, there should be somebody who does not have the same policies of Biden and Trump, right? But Scaramucci is pretty much, I mean, I just feel like we are 100% living in a reality TV show with people out of central casting. I mean, like, Scaramucci, come on. Like, how on the nose are you going to
I don't disagree.
My God.
I don't disagree.
Just repellent people all over the place who belong nowhere in public.
No, I know. It's wild because, I mean, as much as I like to complain about politics back in, like, 2000 when we had George W. Bush, like, the level has gotten so much worse. It's, like, shocking. We just keep moving in this, this direction. It's very unhinged. It's very reactionary. But and I suppose, when the Tea Party first hit the scene, that was all funded by dark money from, like, a lot of Koch brother type folks, including the Koch brothers, because they knew that there would be a benefit for them. So this is the thing that I always look at. You have these right-wing libertarian wealthy elites, right? So I'm talking about Peter Thiel, the Koch brothers, folks of those nature. They're very interested in seeing this happen because it allows them to extract more wealth, right? They're able to, like, concentrate that cycle of wealth and power much more quickly when there's civil unrest in the country and people aren't paying attention, right? So buy more politicians, create more laws to my benefit. The laws that I create to my benefit allows me to buy more politicians, and the cycle just keeps going and going and going. And we get further and further away from, the New Deal politics that the country sorely needs at this point, in my opinion, to deal with the wealth inequality.
I mean, that was their project. That is why they funded Bill Clinton's rise.
Right.
They have their fingers. It was the Democratic. Oh, geez.
Third way. Yeah. DLC. You're right.
It was the DLC. Yeah.
The DLC in the third way. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was Clinton. I mean, they knew that was their guy. That was such a hard right turn for the Democratic Party. And so now they win no matter who wins, we all lose. They keep winning because they have their thumb on both sides of the scale. But yes, that is
they keep winning and everybody else is going to lose. That's I mean,
no matter who wins. Yeah,
we're very towards
those
new in society at this point. If you ask me,
100% what we need. That's the only thing that will fight the fascism that is rising.
I don't disagree. All right, I want to pull up this second Rolling Stone piece today. Rolling Stone is on a roll this week. I tell you, they're doing some good work over there. So every awful thing Trump has promised to do in a second term. I really liked this article because it kind of condensed a lot of the things that have been going on in his world.
Right.
I want to just scroll down to here's what's at stake. We don't need to read the opening. All right. So here's what it's at stake. He will indict Biden and his other political enemies. Trump has made abundantly clear that he will use a potential second term in office to take revenge on his enemies. He's planning to do so by helming the Justice Department with a loyal attorney general willing to appoint a slew of special prosecutors to go after everyone he feels has wronged him. These plans have been in the works since 2021, as Rolling Stone reported in August, and focus not just on Biden, but whom Trump believes is the primary force behind his myriad of legal woes, which is kind of ridiculous if you ask me, but on also special counsel Jack Smith, Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and plenty of others. There are almost too many targets to keep track of, one Trump advisor familiar with the discussion says. Trump's potential revenge tour... It's what they're calling it, right? It's good. Revenge tour has already been mapped out in detail. Rolling Stone reported last year, for example, that Trump's team has been exploring legal strategies to criminally charge Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who indicted the former president for paying porn star Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about an alleged affair ahead of the 2016 election, including by using the DOJ's Civil Rights Division to go after Bragg, who is Black, for racist law enforcement policies as well. I know you laugh, but he did this. Yeah. I mean, it is. It's fucking ridiculous, but this is where we're at. The Washington Post has also reported on the specificity of Trump's plan to take down his haters. He's taking down his haters, noting in November that he even wants to investigate former allies he believes have turned on him. So all of this is about his giant narcissistic ego, his perceived enemies. Notice the guy is never, ever, ever accountable for anything he says or does. Nothing's ever his fault. If something goes wrong in his world, even if he did something really shitty, it's still not his fault. That is who Trump is.
It's the cry bullies.
Yeah, right.
That's a Citations Pod phrase. I don't want to claim it as my own, but I do love it.
It's a good one. It's a good one. You might have to steal that. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, he will round up, intern, and deport undocumented immigrants. This is true. This is what I'm talking about, the John Tanton influence that was very much there in the first administration of Donald Trump will absolutely be there in spades in the second administration. Yep. Trump is planning to crack down on illegal immigration hard. I'm going to say he's going to go after all immigration. The New York Times reported last November that he's going to scour the nation for undocumented immigrants and deport them by the millions per year. That is a quote. He wants to throw the undocumented into detention camps while their cases are being processed, but will do away with due process hearings to make it easier to kick them out of the United States. Who needs due process? What Constitution? Oh, wait, that's right. They're illegal immigrants. They're not entitled to the same laws that we are. Hell, I'm not sure that Trump thinks we are entitled to the same constitutional laws as unless you're one of his psychophants. He'll reportedly pull money from the military to fund the effort if Congress won't comply. I mean, that's nothing shocking. We know that was coming.
Yep.
He will send military to the border. Trump mused late last year that he will be a dictator for one day only, and he will do lots of damage in that one day, I guarantee it, should he win re-election. Rolling Stone reported shortly after his comments that part of this authoritarian plot is to send potentially hundreds of thousands of troops to help seal the border and build new detention camps to house migrants. Trump tried to do something similar during his first term, but he was shot down by officials and attorneys due to fears of legal repercussions. He's going to surround himself with more compliant actors in a potential second term who are already working on ways to make a militarized border perfectly legal. The next one might be my favorite, Leila.
Yeah. I mean, this is just also wildly depressing. Yeah,
it is. He will invade Mexico because, yes, of course, let's invade Mexico. Trump was talked out of bombing Mexico to take out drug labs during his first term. I think a lot of people forgot that was on the table, but he hasn't let go of the idea. Attacking Mexico, or whatever you'd like to call it, that's his words, not mine. Something that President Trump has said he wants battle plans drawn for. A source familiar told Rolling Stone late last year. He complained about missed opportunities of his first term, and there are a lot of people around him who want fewer missed opportunities in a second Trump presidency. Yikes.
Where's the deep state when you need it?
Right. That's so funny because, here's Trump saying the deep state is after him. Like, that's the new public enemy number one, right? He doesn't understand that, like, what the deep state even is, right? The deep state likes Trump.
I mean, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess Biden deported more people than Trump even. Now Trump's going to come and, we're just going to keep on moving right into fascism. Mexico must love having us on their northern border.
I know, right? He will round up the homeless and send the National Guard into cities to fight crime. Now, before I read this, can I just point something out that really bothers me? He will round up the homeless and send the National Guard into cities to fight crime. Nobody wants to deal with the actual poverty that is undergirding why we have a homeless problem.
Nope.
There are very real reasons that need to be corrected politically as to why we have a homeless problem. If you work a full-time job and you cannot afford to pay rent, let alone for rent and food, there is a very, very serious problem in the country. And that is not only the case in the Los Angeles area and the New York area, it is the case in a lot of other places.
Right. But it's here in the bluest states in the nation is where the worst homeless problems are, because nobody wants to take on BlackRock or tax the rich.
Nobody wants to tax the rich. Yeah. So again, this is bipartisan. There are progressive Democrats that are fighting for that inside the Democratic Party. More power to them. But the reality is we are in such a functional array in which the corporate America has purchased so much of our bought Congress that it's very difficult to change laws or to fix laws that will actually improve the situations that are causing all of these problems, right? And in reality, it would be much cheaper for our government to actually deal with them anyway, right? Financially, they're going to pay the cost one way or the other, right? So efficiently, it would make more sense to just, I don't know, tax rich people, raise the minimum wage across. When's the last time we had a national wage increase? Like
2008 under George W. Bush.
Which is insane, right?
George W. Bush. We had 8 years of Obama and no minimum wage increase then.
Of course, yes, they will blame the Republicans, but yeah, no, it's bipartisan. You know, in Los Angeles, for example, the average rent at this point is $2,400 a month. Minimum wage in the city of LA is $15. Do the math, folks.
Yeah. And I mean, Jordan, I remember about a year ago interviewing people who worked at Amazon in New York, $18 an hour. And people hear that and they're like, whoa, they were homeless. They were living in their cars.
Right. A lot of the homeless folks I've talked to are fully and gainfully employed. They just can't pay rent. I just think people should really understand that. And then, of course, the second part of this assumption is that it's homeless people that are causing all the crime, which is not true.
No.
All right, so let's read this. Trump claimed last year that our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares, surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. Is he talking about himself?
And all the CEOs who lie about the shoplifting and then close up their, targets and everything. Yeah.
His solution is to ban urban camping and to corral the unhoused into tent cities, which will be staffed by doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists. This is insane. Trump says he will pay for all of this with the money the U.S. saves from ending mass unskilled migration. That's a pipe dream. Trump will crack down on crime by sending the National Guard into American cities, presumably at his own discretion. He's also said he wants to pull federal funding from law enforcement that doesn't use stop and frisk policing, a practice prone to racial profiling that has been deemed unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional for a very good reason. It usually doesn't lead to more arrests that make sense, right? We have seen people just frisked that have done nothing but walk down the street. That is a infringement of their constitutional rights. We have seen all kinds of problems with that. So it's ridiculous that he would want to bring that back. But not surprising.
Did Eric Adams just bring it back to New York?
Yes, Eric Adams is a hot mess. He's right.
Vote blue, baby.
I know. I mean, right-wing insanity isn't just for the Republicans.
Yep.
He will bring back the death penalty in a big way because, so here's the thing. The problem with the death penalty, we can have a moral conversation about whether anybody has the right to kill anybody else. I'm going to table that for now and say there's a very real legal problem with the death penalty. And that's that. Should the state have that kind of power when they have knowingly killed innocent people? When they knowingly refuse to reseat evidence from crimes that might overturn convictions, because this does happen, when they refuse to have DNA tests looked at, because at the time of the conviction, DNA testing wasn't a thing, but the DNA test is still there in evidence and can be tested. But no, we're not going to look at that. There are very real problems here. And innocent people are getting killed, and everybody should have a problem with this. That is not law and justice. It's disgusting is what it is. So
there are way too many underlying corruption issues where we keep people in jail because they're cheap labor. I mean, look, they're going to make our wages are so low that we can't afford housing. We become homeless. They're criminalizing homeless, building more private prisons where people are forced to work even at like McDonald's or forced to do robo phone calls for Mike Bloomberg's presidential.
That's a thing that happened too.
A project. It will really be to all of their benefits when we're all just their, slave labor.
It's so dystopian, but as crazy as what you're saying might sound to some people, I feel sometimes that's where we're headed. Yeah. All right. So Trump is a big fan of the death penalty. Rolling Stone reported last year on how the Trump administration went on a killing mission during his final year in office, executing 13 people in 6 months after the federal government had only put 3 people to death in the previous 60 years. Trump is thirsty for more. Rolling Stone reported subsequently that Trump is committed to expanding the use of the death penalty if he's reelected, and that he's talked about bringing back death by firing squad and hanging. You got to be kidding me, according to 2 sources. He's even suggested the possibility of executing people by guillotine.
I got banned from Twitter for saying bring back guillotines. You can just say it. That's crazy. I got a permanent suspension. I had to fight for weeks.
Really? That's hilarious. I think people use guillotines in a tongue-in-cheek way, but probably Trump doesn't. He's floated executing anyone convicted of dealing drugs. That's crazy. Really?
I mean,
that's crazy.
He's just really going after Hunter Biden. This is all his project.
This is
go after Hunter Biden.
Probably.
All of the laws he'll write.
Okay. He will make stuff more expensive by taxing all imported goods. Woohoo! When companies come in and they dump their products in the United States, they should pay automatically, let's say, a 10% tax, Trump told Larry Kudlow on Fox Business late August. Larry Kudlow's an idiot. The Washington Post reported that, did I just say that? I did. The Washington Post reported that Trump does indeed want to institute a universal baseline tariff to create a ring around the U.S. economy. The Post notes economists from both sides of the aisle are alarmed at the idea. On net, this would harm the American economy substantially and gum up our whole production process. Chris Clark, an economist at Washington State University, told the paper, producers would have higher costs, and now all the consumers are paying higher prices for goods that used to be imported. We already have a profiteering in our goods, which is why we're seeing higher prices without higher wages. It's got nothing to do with wages, right? So doing something like this is going to just make it worse. Those $8 eggs are now going to be $12. Or maybe not eggs, but something else.
Yeah.
You get the point.
How about we manufacture some stuff back here in this country?
I think that's a great idea.
He talked about that for 4 years. So he campaigned on that. I think
he's not bringing. Yeah, corporations don't want to do that because they've constantly been chasing the lower dollar. It's why we're seeing unions, back in fashion again. Fighting for wage increases.
And why states are fighting kids to be able to work 40-hour weeks after 8th grade to drop out of
which
school.
Is nuts. That is happening in some states. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's bad.
Tax
all right.
the rich.
Anything not to tax the rich, right? Anything not to do that.
Yeah. It's always a poor tax. Your goods are going to be more expensive. So
and the worst part of this is these 1%ers literally have so much money and it's not circulating through the economy. It's not benefiting anybody. It's not benefiting the broader good. This trickle down nonsense is obviously bullshit. I think most people realize that by now.
Yeah.
They're just hoarding cash at the top, and it's caused a real problem in the economy, and we need to do something about it.
And it will cause a problem for them eventually. I mean, I think for FDR, he was aware that it might be pitchforks. For them, they're not afraid of that because both Democrats and Republicans just keep giving more money to our fascist police, right? So,
or to go to the moon or some other place.
Right, yeah, our moonshot. Did we solve cancer yet? What was that? What was the whole thing?
No. We're going to the moon. We're taking all the rich people to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, but who's going to buy their stuff when they have made us all?
When there's nobody left to buy. So
yeah.
I agree with you. That's a real problem, except here's the thing. They have so much accumulated wealth. This is what Tom Steyer told me. They have so much accumulated wealth that they don't need people to buy goods anymore. I mean, think about that for a minute. I know.
Yep.
That's really sobering, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Also, folks, if you have a super chat, we'd love to have it. We will look at super chats at the end, or questions or comments Colin can put up on the screen. We'll do that at the end of the broadcast. If you haven't shared the live stream, please do so. We appreciate helping you guys grow our audience. And then if you want to become a member, we appreciate that too. We are out on the ground doing live streams. We had 2 today already. This is our 3rd live stream. Our reporting covering Palestinian protests, UAW strikes, Cop City in Atlanta, and a host of other things. All of that on the ground reporting costs money. We don't take corporate funding. So your membership at $5 a month helps us pay for all of that for our live view and the trips, hotels and whatnot. So we appreciate our members. I know there's some of you guys in the chat. We appreciate you. So yes, please become a member if you're not already.
I've been a member for years, just saying.
I love that.
That's my conflict of interest. I've been a Status Coup member for years.
I didn't know that. How did I not know that? All right. Yeah. All right. So this is an interesting one because there might be something about this that makes a little bit of sense. I have to give props where props make sense. He will reevaluate America's participation in NATO. I think maybe that should be reevaluated on certain terms, probably not the same ones that Trump does, but let's take a look what Trump thinks. Trump has long griped about the long-standing military alliance, arguing that European nations aren't paying their fair share. Rolling Stone reported last year that Trump wants to wind down America's participation in NATO to a standby role if his demands aren't met, which would be a gift to Vladimir Putin as Russia continues to fight for control of Ukraine. It would be tremendously stupid. It would be a tremendously stupid endeavor, especially at a time when war in Europe rages and much of Europe is looking to the United States to deter further conflict. Dr. Aaron Stein, a Black Sea fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, told Rolling Stone, reacting to Trump's NATO skeptic policy goals. Trading away allies based on ignorance, and Trump is ignorant about this issue, is just silly for broader U.S. national security. The conflict in Europe shouldn't be a problem, however, as Trump has claimed repeatedly that he would be able to end the war in Ukraine in one day. That's probably not true. I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I don't agree with everything Dr. Aaron Stein has to say. I do think we should evaluate our relationship with a lot of these things. I think our military spending is out of control. I don't think demanding Europe to spend more is the solution, which is what Trump is saying. I'm saying maybe we shouldn't be spending the rate that we are spending, right? Maybe we're the ones that need to take that back 10 notches.
Yeah. I mean, everything with him is so transactional. It has nothing to do with creating peace. NATO is absolutely an offensive alliance. It's not defensive. If you want to see how much it deterred war, it just poked the bear and, created this whole proxy war between Ukraine and Russia, not keeping anybody safer. But that's not what he cares about. It's what I care about. But it's always interesting to see where liberals, do you remember that? Was it Tom Brokaw or Peter Jennings who, like, when Trump dropped the mother of all bombs, today is the day that Trump really became president. That's when they just were, they loved him.
Right? They love a good bombing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and the one time that
I remember
they all
that
turned on Biden was when he pulled people out of Afghanistan. So they're the one time that either one of them does something good, the whole liberal establishment turns on both of them. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's that meme that I think the best meme out there to describe this is the two bombers dropping bombs, except the GOP one's just the bomber, and then the Democratic one has like a BLM flag and a rainbow flag on it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's all they care about. And I mean, I think most of the reason they don't like Trump in the deep state is because he ripped the mask off, and he does it in such a sort of like chaotic, in your face way. But he's just, I actually think the deep state loves him.
Do you think the deep state hates Trump? I think they love Trump at base.
No,
Trump is not interested in dialing back the MIC. He's not. Military industrial complex would flourish under Trump. He's not anti-war.
They're doing just as well. I mean, they were doing better actually under Biden, right? Like they've gotten more money for our.
Well, that's only because there's been more war.
No, wait a sec. But Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. Why didn't we save money there? Nope. We just turned right away and funded them even more than Trump did. And now we're in two crazy wars, proxy wars, right? Like, I mean, I just lost my train of thought. No, but I mean, sorry. The policies, I was like, whoa, what am I saying? Trump has a following of really like fervid, enthusiastic, repulsive group of people who love the way he owns the libs, right? They love that he said, I'll be dictator for a day. They love it. He hasn't solved any of their problems, voters, not one of their problems.
No,
neither have Democrats. So they have one person, right? They have one person.
But for whatever reason, they believe Trump is going to solve their problems, even though he showed them who he was in his first term. I don't know. I don't understand why that's not obvious at this point. I can understand people being angry at the government in the sense that they're not being heard. Yeah. And they're not being heard. I think they're really at base. They can see the government say, like, you keep saying yes to all these corporations and what they're doing, and you're not listening to us, and we're really hurting. and we can't continue. This is untenable, right? So
Right.
I understand that. I do understand that. What I don't understand is why anybody would say this demagogue who is clearly part of the plutonymy.
Right.
He has done nothing but make greater hands out for his wealthy buddies. Like he didn't, he talked about bringing jobs back to the United States. He didn't do that.
Yeah. No.
The jobs exiting the country did not slow under the Trump administration at all. That's verifiable data. So I guess what I don't understand is at this point, why would you still believe this guy?
I don't think they believe him. I think that they enjoy, listen, you have Democrats running on Bidenomics and telling people that actually there is no recession and the economy
Which is
great.
Also ridiculous. Yeah. I agree.
So that, at least Trump names it. It's not fair. What's happening to you guys is not fair. You have been mistreated by these people. He's part of the people who mistreats them, but he at least names the thing. Whereas Democrats are just as disgusting, but they pretend not to be. They're still funneling all their money to the MIC, to the police, to the corporations, to healthcare or health insurance. But I think they like that he sees them, even if he hasn't solved their problems. And I think there's a satisfaction in owning the libs. I think they think it's funny that like the whole corporate.
Okay, but let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because the people who promised them for 4 decades that we are the Labor Party, we are on your side, we're the party of the working class, has done nothing for them and is now not even pretending to be a party of the working class.
Okay, so I think that's true for a segment of the population. I don't think it's true for all of it. I think there is a certain chunk of these guys that are 100% super racist, have always been 100% super racist, and are responding to the white nationalist.
Always vote for Republican. They've always voted for Republicans.
Oh, I agree. Right? So there are voters. I think the exit poll showed like something around 9% of voters that had, for example, voted for Obama previously and then turned to Trump, right? So
which were millions.
That is reaction. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely millions. It is very much a reactionary response. I think part of that was also that they knew what they were going to get from another Clinton. These were people that were like, I didn't vote for Hillary in 2008 because that is exactly what I didn't want. I wanted hope and change. I voted for hope and change. Where's my hope and change? So 100% understand that. I think that's all very reactionary. I don't know where we go from here. I don't have a solution. I think we are in a very precarious place, though. Yeah. I do think I think the GOP, modern GOP right now currently is much worse than the Democrats are, though.
I don't know.
As bad. Oh, they 100% are. As bad as some of these things are that you're talking about, and I don't disagree with them. I don't see Biden going full dictator anytime soon. I don't. I do see Trump doing that. And I do think that that's a difference.
Biden is currently funding a genocide. Again,
you think Trump wouldn't be? He'd be,
but he's not the one doing it right now. Yes, I do think he would.
He'd be worse, I think. Trump would be worse in Israel. Worse. I mean,
how would he be worse? What would he be doing that's worse? What would he be?
Is there a Biden Heights in settlement that I don't know about? I mean, Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Trump would 100% be worse.
Tell me the difference between Biden's body count and Trump's body count.
Defined how? That's kind of a broad question.
Dead people. So whether it's COVID, whether it's Palestinians, how many
That's something I can't define. I don't have the data to do that. But I do think.
Okay. Here's the difference. I think Trump is appalling. He is so grotesque. I can't believe that he wasn't jailed in the 80s when we knew he was already breaking laws with his buildings and everything. If we had a functioning democracy, people would have been pointing that out in media, and he never would have had.
I don't disagree with that.
Right. The difference is when Trump does the horrifying things that he did, liberals spoke out against it. The whole corporate media spoke out against it. When Biden does those same things, there is silence or complicity or justification in his heart. He wishes he didn't have to deport all those people. He wishes he didn't have to.
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with that.
So that is terrifying to me.
I got you. All right. I got you. That is terrifying. It's a problem. I think they've done nothing but enable it 100%. All right. Let's go to the next one. He will roll back. Hang on. Whoops. I rolled too far. He will roll back all of Biden's climate progress and reinvest in fossil fuels. Okay, this one is really scary to me because I do think that climate change in this country is an existential threat. If we don't do something about that, none of this other stuff matters, right? So the United States set a record for oil output during Biden's first term in office. And let me say this, Biden has not been friendly towards climate change issues at all either. You know, I mean, we've talked about this on the show more than once. It's really a problem. But Trump wants to do even more damage to the environment. He's made clear he's going to drill, baby, drill on the first day in office, and he will roll back clean energy initiatives, including those included in the Inflation Reduction Act. Trump will also, of course, once again, pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Accords, the international agreement to work to hold the global temperature below 2 degrees Celsius. This is, you know, again, a problem because the Democrats have not done much. They say in their platform, right, that we support doing something about climate change, but time and time again, they have thwarted that. I recall being at the DNC meeting when I was there when the Sunset kids came
Sunrise
in.
movement.
Sunrise movement. Sorry, Sunset.
I know. It feels like we're all like,
it's been a long day.
Over.
We're sunsetting.
Yeah. Right.
The Sunrise movement, came in and they shut down the meeting and whatnot, and the first person at the DNC when they were looking at passing whatever motions they were going to pass was a fossil fuel industry lobbyist who was also a DNC member. So there's clearly a problem here.
Right.
I think even Rolling Stone saying, yeah, there's a problem here.
Right.
But again, Trump would make it worse. He's going to take that and, put it tenfold times worse. The problem is we have choices between somebody that's doing bad and then somebody that's doing much worse. These aren't choices that we should be presented with. We should have something better. And I think that's what's motivating the anger. Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And
right.
You said before you didn't know the solution. I know you know the solution. I know the solution. It's socialism. It's huge, broad social
change.
welfare.
But I don't know how we get there. I know.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I just that's the thing that is so frustrating because again, and I come back to this so often because in 2020, when they did the exit polls, the Fox exit polls, sorry, my phone's going off. One policy after another that were broad social programs were resoundingly popular amongst Fox viewers, Yeah. The people, and yes, there is a segment of this country that is disgusting racist, and that's who they are. I don't know that we win them back. I have no idea. But
my problem isn't just winning them back, it's that they are increasing in number and they're becoming more bold.
And I think they increase the less the government does for them. They have a government that does nothing.
Meaning right? That the income inequality is causing. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. And so that is what's so frustrating because I think we all know the solution.
I agree.
But they're not going to do it.
I just don't know how we get. Yeah. How do we get them to do that?
I just don't know.
All right. Are you ready for freedom cities?
Oh, no. What's that? Oh, God.
Freedom from freedom cities filled with, wait for it, flying cars. Because we don't need to do anything about. Yeah, we don't need to do anything about homeless folks that can't pay rent, but we need flying cars. It is so dystopian. It's like Blade Runner.
Mass public transit free for everybody.
I agree. Make mass transit free. Trump laid out a plan early last year to build 10 freedom cities on federal land as part of what he described as a new American future. The cities would feature flying cars so as to ensure that America, not China, leads the revolution in air mobility. Oh my God. I mean, what the fuck?
I mean, he's just so jaw-droppingly stupid. I mean, sorry if that's that's just pathetic.
Next he will try to overhaul the education system in the MAGA image. This one scares me quite a bit. We've already seen DeSantis making inroads in that in Florida. Yeah. Trump said last September that he wants to shutter the Department of Education and pass the buck to state governments, claiming that federal education employees in many cases hate our children. That is insane. Trump may not want the federal government dictating how schools operate, but he plans to use his office to go after institutions that don't adhere to MAGA ideals. Yikes. vowing to cut funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children, and even to have the Justice Department open investigations into recalcitrant schools. This is that is fascism. That's crazy. Like, you know what bothers me the most about this is these guys all think it's their way or the highway, even though they think like you hear them you see them holding the Gadsden flags, right? The ones that say, don't tread on me, don't tread on me, pro-Constitution. Yeah. And then they turn around and do this. They don't want the Constitution. They don't want freedom for everybody. They just want everybody to adhere to what their ideas are. It's really, and they don't see it. That's what I don't understand.
They don't want immigration. They don't want any of the things that our country was founded on. No free speech, no immigration, none
of it. Yeah.
Public education. Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, and just as scary, he will torch the First Amendment by going after non-MAGA media. Trump has long rallied against unflattering media coverage, whether come by way of CNN, MSNBC, or other fake news like us outlets, or from any of his propaganda arms, including Fox News. He's teased real retribution against the former category, however, raising concerns over the damage another term could do to the First Amendment. MSNBC uses free government-approved airways, and yet it is nothing but a 24-hour hit job on Donald J. Trump, he wrote in November. It's the world's biggest political contribution to the radical left Democrats, which is so ridiculous. So really, MSNBC is what now?
Not my radical.
By the way, are destroying our country. Our so-called government should come down hard on them and make them pay for their illegal political activity. Much more to come. Watch. What illegal political activity? I mean, really? I mean, I might not agree with a lot of the programming on MSNBC, but they are most definitely not engaging in illegal political activity.
He just says stuff out loud and it doesn't even matter if it's true or not, or makes sense. Exactly. I want him to define recalcitrant. Like, I love that they're using words about him in this piece that he probably doesn't even
understand.
Yeah. Hilarious.
It is hilarious. A few weeks ago, Kash Patel, a former advisor who is still very much in Trump's orbit, emphasized the point, telling former White House strategist Steve Bannon that a new Trump administration will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media, and come after them. Conspirators to what? What? We don't like you, Trump. Wait. So if somebody doesn't like you or criticize you, they're a conspirator against you. That is just deranged.
Toddler, so yes, that's how he is really.
Oh my God.
All right. But again, like, God, MSNBC cutting away from Bernie's rallies in 2015 and 2016 to show an empty podium while they wait for Trump. Like, they helped build him up. I mean,
yes, that is true.
That
is true, because they got lots of
complicit.
Yeah, no, I agree. They are complicit. He should love them more because he's given them the media has given Trump so much free airtime that got him elected, and he's not appreciative of it at all, apparently.
Or maybe he is, and maybe this is all part of his reality
political
TV
theater.
Show.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, on some level, it's all kayfabe, right?
Yeah, 100%. All right. He will. This is really sad and true, too. He will legally delegitimize trans Americans. Trump wants to codify the discrimination of trans Americans. He said he would move to enact a federal law stating that there are only two genders and push Congress to ban their gender affirming care for minors and punish doctors and hospitals who treat transgender youth. Absolutely frightful. I mean, I know, right?
Horrifying.
And this one's not shocking. He will pardon the January 6th rioters. Trump and his allies in Congress view the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol as a noble effort and have long lamented how those arrested for breaking into Congress have been treated. Trump said during a town hall last May that he will most likely pardon a large portion of them. I think that's probably true.
He won't even commit to saying all of them.
No, he won't.
He's not. He's such a slimy goose.
He is slimy. He's going to pardon himself, too, when he's done.
Totally.
He will gut the federal government and take unprecedented control of what's left. Trump plans to gut the federal government by reclassifying tens of thousands of civil service employees so that he can fire them. He will clean out all the corrupt actors. We will, this is a quote,
Yeah.
we will clean out all the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them, he said last March. Departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies. Literally people that have never been persecuted in this fucking country whatsoever. It's ridiculous.
But that, I mean, that's always what Republicans do, right? They defund government and they say, see how lousy it is? It doesn't work. Did I just lose you? Oops. I can't hear you. Is that me or you?
Tina, you're muted on StreamYard, it looks like. If you can.
We're getting so yeah, we're talking with our hands. I think she booted herself off the mic. Oh, now I can start talking about all the things I wanted to talk about. No, I'm kidding. Tina. The Republican plan is always to defund government, make it work worse, and then say how we need a small government.
Again, a little wild there, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. All your gesticulating.
Leila, you got me all worked up.
I was going to talk about the body count, but I was like, oh, I don't want to do that to you.
That's for over here later.
Yeah.
All right. So we will clean. Where were we? The departments and agencies that have been weaponized. Okay, we read that. Christians left. Okay. So yeah, these are groups that have never been prosecuted in this country. It's kind of ridiculous that he's saying that, but I don't think any of this is kind of very shocking given the source of Trump, but I did want to take a look at that. He is winning GOP primary. He has a good chance, in my opinion, of actually winning the presidency. What do you think?
I have no doubt he will be president in 2024. Or whatever, he'll win 2024.
I think it's definitely possible.
Terrifying. Yeah.
It is terrifying.
He's beating Biden in every swing state.
Which is where it matters.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, yes, Biden will get more votes in California and New York, but like Michigan, all of these Muslim and Arab Americans who will never vote for Genocide Joe, and quite a few, Joe Biden's lost Black Americans. He's lost the youth vote. He's, so
Michigan, he's lost a lot of the, there's a big
Muslim American.
There.
Yeah. So,
and those are swing states. They matter.
Yeah. They're not going to go vote for Trump, but they're just not going to vote.
They're not going to vote
for Biden.
Yeah.
It's
the
really
biggest,
scary.
the biggest group of voters in the country are those that don't vote. And it is scary.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, since we're running a little bit late, I'm going to jump to right-wing insanity roundup. This is the part of the show where we kind of look at some video clips for the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks for me this time, because we didn't have right-wing insanity last week. So, you were talking about how Trump was, how he's back in the 80s, right? So believe it or not, I pulled a clip on that.
Really?
You have ESP. I want to play this clip. This is Donald Trump on the Charlie Rose show a gazillion years ago. Let's listen to this.
Some of the people that were most loyal to me are people that I didn't think would be. Some of the people that were least loyal to me are people that I think I would have treated them differently. I think I would have treated different groups differently. I would have wiped the floor with the guys that weren't loyal, which I will now do, which is great. I love getting even with people, but I would have wiped.
You love getting even.
Oh, absolutely. You don't believe in the eye for the eye. You do.
No.
I know you well enough. I think you do. But anyway, but
tell me. You're going to get even with some people.
Yeah, I know. If given the opportunity, I will get even with some people that were disloyal to me. I had a group of people that were disloyal.
But how do you define disloyalty?
They didn't come to my aid.
Well, what did they do? They turned their back on you?
No, but they didn't do small things that would have helped. You see, I'm so loyal to people. Maybe I'm loyal to a fault, but I'm so loyal to people that when somebody's slightly disloyal to me, I look upon it as a great act of horror.
Oh my God. Like I vomited in my mouth. And he was friends with the Clintons. They invited this disgusting specimen to their daughter's wedding. Like just so gross.
It is gross. So here he is talking about, how he loves revenge, right? We know that that's true. He has a history of loving revenge. So I thought that went really well with what we were just talking about. But also notice how he talks about how loyal he is to people, which is absolutely nonsense. I mean, does he really view himself that way?
Probably, but he's such a narcissist and so sensitive to things, right? That he can't see it.
He can't see it.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
He can't see it. All right. So I wanted to play, that was an old clip of his from Charlie Rose. This one is absolutely some of the most outrageous revisionism I have ever heard in my life. And that is quite the statement because I've heard a lot of crazy shit, as you know. So let me play this one. This is like crazy.
I've been grieved since Barack Obama became president. We've actually gone backwards in race relations, and he's created so much division. And these DEI programs just really they're negative for everybody, including Black Americans, because Ben Carson was one of the great all-time surgeons, and yet now because of DEI, when you see a Black surgeon, you get a question in your mind. And what you want is you want the Blacks that are on top, that do succeed, to be there on their merit, because they absolutely have as much merit as anybody else.
Okay, now
the Blacks on top.
So, I mean, number one, when you see a Black surgeon, you question it. Like, no, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Leila doesn't do that. Most people don't do that. Bro, you do that because you're insane racist and you don't even see it.
I mean, I wonder how he got where he is, right? Like anytime you see a white man in power, you got to wonder who helped give him a leg up. Right.
I mean, just everything he said was racist, and he doesn't even think he's a racist, right? He's the guy that says, "Oh, I'm not a racist. I have Black friends, like this guy over here. The Black surgeon I know." Yeah, I mean, just it's so appalling. Yeah. It's so appalling. This is what we're dealing with. Now I want to turn to another white nationalist. Her name is Lauren Witzke. She ran for the GOP in Delaware last year. She's an absolute Christian nationalist. This is some crazy here too.
I don't know if I have that one. Give me one sec.
Do you want me to send it to you if not?
I have it right here. Give me.
Okay, right on.
They're so worried for a second they might be treated the way they've treated
others,
marginalized communities.
Yeah, they don't even see it, man. It's just so grotesque. This guy's saying this stuff and it's just spilling out of his mouth, and he's like, "What's the problem?"
I believe that 9/11 was a human sacrifice on a mass scale. I think that, they have been doing this work with these demons, but the devil demands a sacrifice. Look at any person in Hollywood or famous person. They had to sacrifice something, whether it was their innocence or another person or a thing or a child, in order to get to where they are. You have to provide a sacrifice. And if the government is working with these demons, they demand their sacrifice. And just killing one person isn't going to be enough. You have to kill 3,000. Oh, and you have to do it on live television. Oh, and you have to air it in every classroom, a public school classroom in the country. So it was very much so. I believe that 9/11, spiritually, was a human sacrifice, some kind of sacrificial presentation for the powers that be that are taking over our government and working with our government.
I can't.
Wow. Wow.
It's a doozy. And she's crazy. Serious. Everything, she ran for the Senate last year in Delaware, and just all kinds of chalk crazy comes. Oh, she lost, thank God. But, and she's also a white nationalist, of course. But some of the stuff she says, 9/11 was a human sacrifice. You really think that your political enemies staged 9/11 to happen so that what now? Because they're working with demons? I don't even know what she's saying, quite frankly. I'm trying to understand it, but I'm like, what?
Yeah, that is... who I blame? Aaron Sorkin. Because every time he had some right-wing Southern Republican woman on the show, he would make her palatable and kind of also a good person.
Are you talking about the West Wing? Or
the West Wing on the West, and she reminds me of that Kristen Chenoweth character who was nobody should give her the time of day.
Right.
That's
right.
insane.
All right, I got one more for you. This one's not funny. This one's kind of scary. So, Turning Point USA, this guy, Evan that works there, Evan Kilgore is his name. So, Turning Point USA, for folks that don't know, that is Charlie Kirk's, Candace Owens' group. They're supposed to be
in our hood tonight.
They are in our hood here in Los Angeles. Yes, I'm going to go, when I'm done here, go cover a protest there. But they are supposed to be doing like advocacy work on college campuses. I think they've kind of broadened that out into doing other things, but they are definitely far right. Charlie Kirk has been saying anti-Semitic stuff recently, so he's definitely lurching more to the right than he had been in the past. So one of these guys, Evan Kilgore, that works at TPUSU, was on Stu Peter's show. I've had Stu Peter clips on the show before because he is a very scary right-wing streamer. Scary in the sense that he says the most insanely Nazi-est kinds of things with a straight face, and he thinks he's a journalist. So let's play this clip.
Do you think that America needs to see an insurrection, a violent one?
I think that if we can't get this country back under control, then we certainly need to do something. And does it need to be an insurrection? Possibly. There needs to be a list of demands. If we're going to go take over the Capitol, there needs to be a list of demands saying we're not going to leave unless these are satisfied, unless we, the people, regain the power in this nation.
Yeah. If we don't do that, there's going to be blood spilled. Do you believe that?
I think we're already on the verge of that. Whether it be a civil war or a world war, America is on the brink of total collapse. You're going to see bloodshed, not even just in America, but worldwide, if we can't regain our composure on the world stage.
I agree. So when you say, and I love this conversation. So when you say rise up or rebel against this government, you're not talking about something that's unprecedented. I want the viewing audience to understand this. I mean, Abbott isn't saying something that's like completely radical and dangerous and violent and out of control. There's a precedent for this. Our Constitution says that if you don't face a tyrannical, oppressive government, a government that is oppressive to your God-given, inherent, inalienable rights provided to you by God, under God, by the Constitution, by the Bill of Rights, you would be derelict in your duties as Americans if you didn't abolish that form of government and replace it with something that's representative of the people. We don't have any representation in Washington. We have a bunch of people that are sold out to Jews. That's what we have. I mean, literally, that's what we have. Nobody can argue that. It's not anti-Semitic to say that. It is freaking fact. Every one of our bureaucracies, every one of our three-letter agencies, all of our Ivy League schools, all of our publicly funded college post-secondary institutions, every institution in this country is led by somebody who claims to be a Jew. Are they practicing Jews? No, of course they're not. They hide behind the Jew label so that they can get people like Elon Musk to kick me off of X for saying that they're a Jew. Just for saying that they're a Jew. But they'll proudly say I'm a Jew, just because they can hide behind the ADL and AIPAC and the most powerful lobby in all of Washington, which is why you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, an America First fighter, a patriot, going to Washington to expose the deep state and take on rhinos. And then she turns out to be a complete effing sellout who takes selfies in front of gulags where people are being held without due process as prisoners of war on American soil.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So this guy is, this is how his show is always, right? So this is why I think he's particularly dangerous. Obviously, what he's saying is fact about Jews running every organization is not a fact. It is verifiably false, in fact. So the fact that he's saying nobody can argue against that is absurd. But, you know, he's a Nazi. Nazis do what Nazis do. But the other thing I want to point out, Leila, is this idea of that he and his friends are fighting some tyrannically oppressive government. They are not. They don't live under tyranny. None of them live under tyranny. There is no tyrannical oppressive government with their boot on their neck. This is not the same thing as 1776. We aren't fighting the King of England, who actually was that.
Right. So what they want no more immigration? Like, what do they want?
They're Nazis. They want a white fascist state.
All white. That's it. They want just a white fascist
They
state.
want a tyrannical government. That is what they want. They want it to be in the image of what they want it to be. So, again, this is the double speak that they engage in that's quite dangerous, though, right?
Right, because there's just enough kernels of like, yeah, you're right. We need to fight against tyranny without then examining like, well, what's the tyranny that's happening? I mean,
and again, he's right about the income inequality, but again, instead of like looking at what's really happening here, the white men, the white billionaires, really Elon Musk is doing the bidding of Jewish people. He's one of the most anti-Semitic people out there.
He's just
like
Stu
Peters. The fact that you went a bridge too far for Elon Musk should tell you something.
Yeah. And Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
Like, come on.
It's like, come on, man. I mean, Elon Musk has allowed so many white supremacists back on the site. The fact is that you went so far that he kicked you off. That means there's something seriously wrong with what you're saying. Like, it's not even palatable to Elon Musk. That is like, wow. I mean, this is a guy that reinstated Andrew Eglin, for fuck's sake. Andrew Eglin is, the biggest Nazi around. He just knows when to mind his P's and Q's.
And he's even repeated like replacement theory, Elon Musk ideas, and liked them. Yeah, I mean, he's no friend of Jews.
No,
or
Elon Musk is a right-wing
people.
Extremist at this point, or at least he's headed in that direction. If you ask me, he's
that
definitely
guy is really terrifying. That's crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, all right, y'all.
I know it is so depressing to watch all of these people feel so comfortable spewing their hate.
Right. And to say the things that they're saying, like do they really believe they live under the tyrannical oppressive government? Like, it's crazy to me. It's like, my God, are you kidding me? The fact that you're able to go on television and stream the show that you're streaming, vile things coming out of your mouth, and there's no legal consequence to that whatsoever, should tell you otherwise.
Yeah, that hatred for anybody who's not white, I will never understand it. And to feel that you are under some tyrannical oppression because everybody doesn't look like you.
Because the people that don't look at you just want to be treated equally. That's oppression to you. Then there's something seriously wrong with you. That is not oppression. That is you no longer being able to be the oppressor. That is what that is.
Right. For 1 second, you might have to understand what it's like for everybody else to be here. I just froze again. Look at that. Sorry.
It's StreamYard. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Well, it's okay. Stay there with your resting bitch face. That's good.
I'll be back in 30 seconds.
No, you don't have to leave. We're done here. We're gonna go.
But I hate that face. It's like driving me crazy. No. It's okay. Are you done? Do you want me to?
We're gonna go through super chat. All right, go ahead. As you're doing that, I'm gonna have Colin pull up some of the super chats because that's the end of the show. Colin, what do we have for super chats? All right, Nadia. Thank you, Nadia. I love Nadia's comments. Every week she has really great comments. Maine repealing its trans sanctuary law after lot called in terrorists to SWAT and calling death threats and bomb threats, and more might also be worth looking at. E.g., Erin Reed. Yes, Erin Reed. I've been following her work. Yeah, no, the anti-trans stuff is escalating. It's not dialing back anytime soon. It's very frightening what's going on across the country. And I do worry that, that is one of the things that Trump has made clear, that he will have a federal ban on trans youths getting the care that they need. It's wild to me because 3 or 4 years ago, I don't think anybody was really paying attention to trans individuals as they were fighting, just to have inclusion stuff like pronouns, like, ask me my pronouns, things of this nature. And now the amount of hatred that's being directed at these kids is just unbelievable. And half the time, more than half the time, almost all the time, they come up with these stories that aren't even based in reality. Oh, there you are. You're moving again.
Sorry, I know. I don't know what. It's just so annoying. Yeah.
All right. So, Colin, what do we got next? Oh, we have more than one from Nadia. Thank you, Nadia. Generous today. Project 25 plans to declare. All right, Project 25. We did talk about Project 2025. I think I had Stephen Monticelli on for that one about 6 or 7 months ago when it was first released. I think we need to do another show about Project 2025, more of a deep dive look at it, because this is a roadmap that the far right wants to use if they get Trump into office to really make some fascist changes in the country. So the Project 2025 plan is to declare the appearances of trans people to be a form of indecent exposure, i.e. a sex offense. Jesus, that's wow. And thereby mass imprison trans people, not just delegitimize them. Yeah, that's scary. I believe that that's 100% where they're headed. They're very hateful people. Project 2025, I also think is being pushed by the Heritage Foundation, if I remember correctly. But I'll do a second show on that because I think it's worth looking at. Tony D, hey, how are you, Tony D? Haven't seen you in a hot minute. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the $1.99. Much love to Leila and Tina. Happy weekend. Happy weekend to you. For us. What else we got? Chris Garrett, OG Chris. Thank you, Chris. Sending some super chat blood for one of the best shows on the net. Thank you, Chris Garrett. We appreciate you. Leila's doing your little high fives up in the air. That's everything? I think. Yep. Okay. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And for 2 other live streams, John Farina, let's give a little shout out to John. He was quite busy today. He did 2 different protests.
Coverage. Wow.
Yeah, good work from both of them. So everybody, it's Friday, so go out and have a fabulous weekend. I think we might have John covering another protest tomorrow, in fact. So tune in for that, and we will see you next week.